Alex Jones, the world's most persecuted man for telling the truth. Agree. That was a joke. I don't know if anyone might watch this later who doesn't know that. That's a joke. I hate this man. Agrees to liquidate his assets to pay Sandy Hook families in move that would end his ownership of InfoWars. Nice. My understanding was that he had like legally sequestered ownership of InfoWars away to his parents, that he had gotten around some previous like tax or legal considerations by doing so. I don't know if this just means ownership would move entirely to his parents. To his dad, yes. Yeah, he's tried to like hide his money. Because remember, he owes like billions, you know? And he's worthless garbage, and you know, in a just society he would pay far more than money. But it looks like because my man does not actually have 1.5 billion in cash, he's going to have to liquidate some assets. Something which isn't there a clip recently of him crying? He's going to have to like liquidate his farm or something like that. Was it a farm? His studio? Why do I remember farm?
At the end of the day, we're going to beat these people.
Now, obviously, he's ginning this up because he wants more donations, right? It's his ranch? Gotcha, his ranch, not his farm. Gotcha. That makes more sense to have a ranch than a farm. He's ginning it up to, you know, because he wants more donos, but it's pretty hard for people to out-donate a $1.5 billion bill, as it turns out.
I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but it's been a hard fight. These people hate our children. Just take more calls. Go ahead and do the next person.
Nice. Now, for a person like Alex Jones, obviously, any kind of legitimate persecution for the horrible things that he's done is just like something that he can monetize in the future, like something he can get more people to donate over, which is pretty sickening, to be honest. He really is like a monstrous piece of shit, you know, and his audience is largely a victim of him, I think, in a lot of cases. In a lot of other cases, they're not necessarily a victim of him. They're just kind of like a wandering, shiftless group of paranoid schizophrenics who latch on to anybody or anything that'll feed their narrative. It's really difficult to say. I feel like it's kind of a cyclical relationship. I'm sure there are days that Alex Jones wakes up and thinks like, Jesus Christ, man, I need to say some insane shit today to meet my bills. I'm not going to believe it, but I have to do it. Mental illness is politicized has never been more true, Vosh. 100%, yeah, 100%, absolutely. This is one of the reasons why the right wing is anti-therapy and anti-pharmaceutical medication for mental illness. Why they are, like, broadly distrustful of it. You'd think it would be just like an institutional distrust thing, right? But the right isn't distrustful of pharmaceuticals in general. Do you know why? Because the biggest consumer of pharmaceuticals are old people. Pharmaceutical companies don't just make SSRIs, you know. They make a million different meds for old people to take when they wake up, so their multiple organ failure death is postponed by a few days, you know. If you go after the concept of pharmaceuticals generally, you're going after people who are dependent on like healthcare, and that's a lot of old people, and old people vote red. So you go after pharmaceuticals that are specifically about mental illness for a couple of reasons. For one, the left is a lot better at identifying and encouraging people to get help for mental illness, whereas the right denies its existence altogether. There are so many people out there who are just like conservative, and they have anxiety disorders and ADHD and like OCD and depression, and they just do nothing about it because they're so locked in on this being the normal way of living that they don't even, like, they get hostile to the idea that they might be able to live a better life if they just get some of their levels adjusted a little bit. Like they cannot handle it. Whereas I think people are sort of like naturally a little bit defensive when it comes to their mental health, which I totally get. I think that on average within the left-leaning community, it's way more common for people to go, hey, the symptoms you're describing sound like anxiety, you know, have you tried like sertraline or something or whatever else, right? It's way, way, way more common for people to treat it like what it is, which is, you know, a medical such and such, right? Yeah, SSRIs have a mixed history, but I'm talking like broadly with mental health. And I think that a big part of this in terms of like the selective distrust is just because the right wants people to be mentally ill. Have you interacted with a conservative on Twitter lately? They clearly need mental illness. You know, like mental illness isn't just like a side piece. Mental illness isn't just like a convenient accompaniment to their broader political strategy. These guys are in on it. I saw this Twitter exchange recently where the recent Suicide Squad game, the subject of much culture war discourse, flopped. And Jason Schreier did an article on it based on the interviews of 24 people who worked on the game, right? And there was this excellent exchange, pardon me for just reading tweets out loud, where Justin said, not one mention of the woke tone turning off fans or SBI influence. Really, Jason? There was a big conservative conspiracy that a woke company called Sweet Baby Inc., this was like Gamergate 2, was making this woke, and that's why they killed Batman in it, or something like that. It's genuine, like, schizoid delusional shit, but it's stuff that's been heavily promoted by right-wing gaming YouTube channels because they're always talking about stuff like that. I briefly covered it on stream. It was so uninteresting I couldn't even say much about it. Jason Schreier replies, this article is about what actually happened. Justin replies, right. So it didn't have any effect on development behind the scenes, hiring practices, or turning off millions of fans. Do you not remember this game is what kicked off the SBI drama to begin with? To not even mention it is negligent, absent journalism, dishonestly so. I asked 24 people who worked in the game what went wrong, and not a single one mentioned the words sweet baby. You are chasing angry hallucinations created by grifters who make money off your rage. So anyway, about Alex Jones. The point that I'm getting at here is just that it's widespread. Alex Jones is not the only person who does what he does. I would argue that every right-wing influencer to some level does what Alex Jones does. Right-wing influencers are like a spectrum between Alex Jones and Ben Shapiro, where Ben Shapiro tries his best to present his delusional arguments in a kind of like logical construct, so you can argue for them in a way that sounds like it's civil and well-reasoned. And then you've got Alex Jones, right? But they all operate on the same spectrum, and that spectrum is we really, really, really need delusional, mentally ill, like incredibly bigoted schizoids arguing our points in comment sections, because that's how we make our money. It genuinely is incredibly crazy, man. There are so many online arguments nowadays where like a right-wing person will say something bigoted or factually incorrect, and a follow-up will be asked for, and their response will be simply, like literally, they just want to kill or the people they don't like. That's so common on Twitter now. It didn't used to be like that. It used to be there'd be like some pretense at an argument, but now it's just like, no, like, oh, point 1, X, point 2, oh, killer, you know? Vosh, really? Yes. Like, it's like everywhere. Yeah, constantly. It's nonstop. There's no argument underneath it. It's just hatred, you know? Maybe because there used to be effective moderation? Well, yes, and a lot of behavior like this, and the behavior of people like Alex Jones fans or whatever else, it's not all psychological from the get-go. I genuinely think you can be radicalized into mental illness. I have always believed that. I have never believed that mental illness is something that is just like an on or off switch in your brain that's determined at birth or maybe at some point during your life, and environmental factors have nothing to do with it. You know, I have always believed that, like, if you take a relatively normal person, you bait them in with one thing they agree on with Alex Jones, and they start watching Alex Jones more and more often, they will develop disorders. And I think they rely on that. Isn't being radicalized into mental illness what all cults do? I mean, effectively, yes, yeah. I mean, essentially. The liquidation of Jones's assets do not mean that InfoWars will cease to exist. Several outcomes are possible. The court-appointed trustee could sell the business to another owner, for instance. I wonder I really hope they don't auction it off, because if they auction off the rights to InfoWars, it's just going to be like some other right-wing guy is going to pay top dollar for it and then give it back to Alex Jones. The judge gave Jones 2 weeks to wrap things up. 2 weeks! Issued a ruling allowing Jones to keep his operations up and running for the next 2 weeks while the court decides whether his assets should be liquidated. Oh, but that was 3 days ago. The liquidation has been agreed to. No getting around it, really. I mean, what else is he going to do to pay off this debt? You know? I agree that InfoWars needs to be liquidated, yeah. Yeah, George Soros can buy it, exactly. New donation stream incentive. Yeah, but he still has it for the remaining 1.5 weeks. Well, I mean, whatever, you know. These things don't happen immediately. Buy to make it based. I don't know, man. The problem is, without Jones, InfoWars probably isn't worth anything. Oh, no, this isn't like an investment opportunity, you know? It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's not an investment opportunity, I don't think. It's just like, I think that in a lot of cases, some people are, remember how much of an audience various right-wing influencers lost after they lost their platforms? Like Stefan Molyneux is always the one that comes to my mind. Man went from being one of the dominant right-wing voices on YouTube to being nobody after he got too Nazi in the videos and got kicked off. Andrew Tate, to a large extent as well. Now Andrew Tate is like begging for Twitter blue check ad revenue by tweeting out random shit like, I'm gay people are bad. What, like, you see in his tweets? There's no longer any broader platform to it. Tucker Carlson as well. Alex Jones was always the one counterexample. The man who built an independent platform so effectively that deplatforming him from YouTube actually didn't stop him. You know? A lot went well in his favor. He was very smart in how he handled it from a business perspective. He was the one counterexample. Do you think he can do it twice? Maybe. I don't know. He's a smart guy. His problem has never been that he's stupid, you know? Either way, it's a big setback. Remember Rush Limbaugh? I remember riding in the car with my mom when I was about 8 years old and her just freaking out about him. Rush Limbaugh was a detestable human in ways that are actually so pronounced that it's difficult to match them today, you know? Like, he was a demon. Young chatters don't know about him reading out the names of gay men who died of AIDS. He did a lot of shit, man. He did a lot of shit.